But on the Arsenal Forest game, obviously the upside of that and the repercussions from that game aren't just to City winning the title, it's to the relegation picture as well, because Nottingham Forest confirmed their safety with that win, which, again, with the view of hindsight of an incredible battle for relegation survival at the last end of this season, is fantastic for Forest, because they had a wobble, didn't they? And we said in the middle of the season when they were doing actually quite well, Forest have really surpassed anything we expected. Then they had this wobble. But the way they've fought back, and especially in a game like this, Myles, what resilience, what resolve, what an amazing testament to the loyalty to a manager as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was something that Steve Cooper really earned, it felt like. It was a challenge. Coming up from the Championship through the playoffs is always a challenge. And I think some people thought Forest were a bit ahead of schedule. Then he had that huge rebuild in the summer, which was laughed at by many, probably us included. But Cooper's clearly proven that he's a fantastic Premier League manager, that even with those circumstances, he's confirmed their safety. And actually, I think Forest fans will be really happy with this season. Their home form in particular has really given their fans something to cheer about. And I think that's been a massive factor as well. It was funny, I watched the game with my brother-in-law, who we've had on the podcast before, a huge Arsenal fan, and he hit the nail on the head. Before the game kicked off, the way the Forest fans were, the atmosphere they created, he said to me, you watch City will just pass the ball for the first 10 minutes just to shut the crowd up, keep them quiet, stop them from having to think about anything. And Arsenal just completely failed to do that. They gave Forest all the momentum. They even gave them the opening goal, didn't they? Yeah. And it just looked like they were, bereft of any confidence. They looked shattered. I think a lot of them. The tactics in the first half were bizarre, and Forest capitalised. There are some real standout players in that Forest side who will look at this season as a fantastic first season in the Premier League or a first season with Forest. And actually, yes, they may have signed 30 players. They're not going to have to do that again. It'll be tweaks now to improve and build on what's actually quite a strong foundation with some of the players they've got there.
Yeah, I think it's the complete opposite to Man City statistically as well. Possession-wise, lowest in the league. Shots per 90 minutes, shots on target, lowest in the league. Yet it's individuals and the brilliance of kind of the team effort that have really come to the fore. And I think on this particular game, Morgan Gibbs-White was fantastic. Tayo Awoniyi has kind of had a great run of form in the last few games as well, and actually scored more goals in the last 5 or 6 games than he had the previous 25 or something like that. So different players coming into different sort of levels of form and consistency within a team. That's really important, Dave, isn't it, to a team that are fighting relegation?
Yeah, and a mention on Gibbs-White there. I think I saw a stat the other day that he's had second most contributions in the last, I think it's 3 months to Odegaard, which says a lot of how well he has been playing.
It's great.
And he's been key, really. He's been a key player, and I think his relationship has really blossomed with Brennan Johnson as the season's gone on. I think we spoke a few weeks ago, didn't we, about whether they'd run their course, really, because they were doing so well when we obviously did a piece on them a few weeks ago, and then they went about 7 or 8 games without a win, and we just thought, hang on, actually, they're getting dragged into it now. But these last few weeks, they've done phenomenally well, and like you mentioned there, Mike, Awoniyi, I think he's been a real handful against the majority of teams I've seen him play against. He's handled himself really well and just proved a real...
difference maker.
Yeah.
He's a handful, isn't he? Physically as well.
Yeah. Do you know what? With him in particular as well, I think his goals have equated to 16 points for Forest, that's huge when you're down the bottom.
Mad statistic.
And actually, there's a lot of teams in that picture that's what they're lacking, a player that will drag them out like that. If you think about the teams that are down there right now, Bamford's not firing for Leeds. They're missing that player. Calvert-Lewin's constantly injured for Everton. They've not got that player. Leicester are relying on maybe Jamie Vardy to do that, which is difficult these days. So that coming in at this stage of the season is huge. So as good as Gibbs-White and Brennan Johnson have been, Awoniyi's got to be absolutely buzzing with the first season he's had in the end, because it wasn't always easy for him. He's struggled for game time at points of the season. Yeah. In January, they signed Chris Wood, and it looked like maybe that was how they were going to try and fight for survival instead. But he's come in at this stage, and yeah, I think he's been fantastic. A bit of fortune in the goal, obviously, because Gabriel gets to the ball first and it bounces off him. But you got to take that look when you're in that kind of battle, really. And Forest earns it, absolutely. I think they've been great to watch at times. I'm really glad that they're staying. I hope they can do something about their away form, or they're going to struggle to keep this up again next season. But at home, yeah, they're a challenge for anyone in the league, as they proved in this game.
I think the fact that they had this victory at home as well, and the fact that it sealed security for the league for another season, the reaction from the crowd was incredible. And I think that's been such a big factor in them performing well. They perform for their team. That's that cliche 12th man, isn't it? But I mean, I'm still trying to get my head around the fact that Keylor Navas is in goal for Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, ridiculous.
It seems mad, but a few of their signings in January were kind of like not really gelling initially, and you did sort of wonder whether they were going a bit too far with the amount of players they were signing. But the likes of Danilo have done really well. Felipe,
amazing.
Navas himself, even Serge Aurier as well has proved to be a really effective attacking wing back. So there's a lot there to be kind of admired, really, with their recruitment as well. It could have gone absolutely horrendous for them. We've said that in the past, but Steve Cooper, what a manager to coach that many characters so quickly.
That's the one thing I would say. Forest fans probably think that we're loving on them and are really happy about this, and they'll kill me for saying this. But Forest were loyal to Cooper at a time that looked difficult. I wonder how high Cooper's stock is right now, and whether maybe Spurs might come knocking.
I don't know.
Would he go?
There's a lot of very good managers available at the minute, and I do think
West Ham?
I think there's a bit of snobbery towards Steve Cooper still. I think there's probably a few neutral fans that probably think he's lucky to be in a job, because they are that kind of fan where their club is normally pulling the trigger at the stage where you would imagine Steve Cooper would have been sacked. But the last thing they would have needed, with the amount of change in their team anyway, would be to lose their manager and try and start again. So they've done absolutely the right thing, really, I think.